Hi Moonbeams! It's Nina! Welcome in. As you can see, I am sporting an avatar! I designed and rigged this model myself. She does have a few changes that need to be made, like the mouth, instead of staying wide open. But, so yeah, if you'd like to see some live 2D tutorials, please like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll get on to today's tutorial, which is grayscale versus base colors. And we're going to look at both of them at the same time and see what they can both offer you. So let's get on with the tutorial. Hi, so we're going to look at grayscale and base colors. So I have this drawing I drew. So the whole principle of them both is that in grayscale, you start with just gray's color, like gray the color, and then you add the shadows that way. Whereas with base colors, you put your base colors and then you start adding shadow and highlights from colors. So let me explain, okay? So let's say we'll start with the grayscale first. So if you wanted her to have a paler skin, you'll go lighter grays. If you wanted her to have a darker skin, you go darker grays, okay? But you're still just staying in the gray section. So let's say we're going to give her like a fairly pale skin. Also, this is on Procreate. So I'm just gonna put on the outline, and then we're gonna do it together. Okay? So you're vaguely adding the outline, okay, of the face. And then you flip it in. And that to me just, it's such an easy way. Obviously you do it a lot more carefully than I have, but it's fine. We can just like fix it up. And then you just do the same for the entirety of the skin tone. Now, once we get this base color, then have a think. Do you want really dark clothes or hair color? So again, you're just starting to think, what kind of clothes and hair would I want it in comparison to the skin? So if they're darker, then you'll go a darker gray. But if they're lighter, then you'll go a lighter gray. Okay, that's the whole principle behind the gray scale. So I like to have an individual layer for each of this. Oh, I nearly forgot the ear. Don't forget the ear. I will be speeding up some processes, so just like it's not a super long tutorial. Yeah, so I'm gonna have a new layer for the hair, and she'll have slightly darker hair, so I'll go a little bit darker gray. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but with the hair. Now, this is on top of the, if it's higher, it means it's gonna show up above it, okay? So like if I turn this upside down, then the skin color would show up over the hair, and that's not what we want. So make sure your layers are in the right order, okay? Okay, so this is like a fair, vague sketch of the hair. And then again, remember, we're doing the same for each of the clothes. So the bow will be a fairly paler color. So it's going to be like a much paler gray. Now I can add this behind the hair. So I can bring this layer down because we don't need it to be, if I can get it to work. There we go. We don't need it to be at the front face. And then clothes will be a darker top here. And I like to have them in separate layers because I like the control that it gives me. So we're gonna go like a mid-gray for this top. And then I can bring the actual sleeves, and we'll go like a fairly dark for them. Now I'm gonna bring the sleeves underneath the shirt because we don't need it to be higher. Now I'm gonna just make this bow a little bit lighter, and then that same gray will have to come to this ribbon here. And then you can see if the contrast is too light or not bright enough. So let's say you wanted less contrast, you'd make the hair brighter, or if you wanted more, you make the hair darker, etc., etc. Okay, so the whole thing with the grayscale is that you're going to be adding shadows and highlights in gray colors. Okay, so let's start with the skin color. We're going to alpha lock. That means anything that we draw will stay into it. It doesn't go to any of the others, okay? We're gonna get a soft brush. So this is the color we've chosen. We're gonna go darker a little bit, and we're gonna bring the hue. No, we're gonna go darker even more, okay? So the hue is only for the colors, which we'll come back to. So shadows on the skin particularly it will bring the opacity down as well. We don't want it really high. So we'll get some shadows this way, because the inner eyes, under the hair there would be shadows. The lips might have a bit of shadow. This side, because you need to figure out where your light is coming. We'll have in both of them that the light is coming this way, okay? So we want those areas to be lighter. So as you can see, the only thing that's changing is the actual layer. You don't want to press down, okay? You want to be as light as possible with this. So we have our vague shadows. I also want her to have a bit of a blush, so we'll bring some shadow to her blush. Maybe her nose, the under. Okay, that was too much shadow on the bottom. So yeah, if you wanted like a really darker lipstick, this would be the time where you would put it. Now, don't forget to always flip your canvas. So go to canvas and we flip. And then you can see if any changes need to be made. And I'm just color picking as I'm going along at this point. Okay? So, once you've done a vague shadows, then you can, if you want to make, you don't have to constantly be on alpha lock. You can bring in your layer, you click on it, and you clip it mask. It has the same effect as alpha lock, which means anything you draw will stay in this section that is pointing into. So anything I draw will again stay in that section, okay? But what this does, this option of clipping mask, is that it allows you to have more flexibility. Because let's say you drew something and then you were like, oh, I hated it. Instead of it all being on one layer and you're kind of stuck, you can have it on a separate layer. So you can delete and alter changes easily. So you can also do that with the lighter colors. So you'll find your highlight again, but instead of going in the darker side, we're gonna go, instead of going this way, we're gonna go higher, okay? Because our shadows are higher, our highlights are higher. So you can also bring in screen or lighten to make it even more so. Again, we're gonna bring the opacity down. See, because I'm on a clipping mask, I can easily erase that if I don't like it. which you don't have if you alpha lock. But if you're limited on number of layers you can have, then I would strongly suggest you get used to using alpha lock. So because our light is coming this way, we want the highlights to be more prominent from this side. So now you have, let's say, all the colors that you want. You also have some on your lips. But then what? How do you add colors? Okay. So you would get a base color. Let's say we're gonna go with this. And you will, I'm just gonna merge them for the time being so that we're gonna work on the skin. Okay. You're gonna clippy mask it. And we are going to add it on overlay. Okay. And then we're gonna add it in. Now what this does is makes it a little bit too much. So you can look at all the different options you could have. Okay. Now you wanted to keep the shadows as much as possible. So you could even do soft light. And then you can start adding more shadows. So I'm just smudging this new lights that I've put because I wanted her to have like soft glow, but then that's too orange. So I'm going to go into the hue and saturation. I'm going to try a slightly more pink. And we can maybe bring up the opacity. You can do it as bright or not, as low as you want it. And we're going to give her an actual lip color. So I'm going to find a color that I would think I would want. See, it already has hidden the things we've already worked on. But it gave us a good understanding. That's how I tend to use Grayscale. So the more you bring down the opacity, the more you can see those shadows we made, because you can already see them there. They're still very vivid, although maybe not as much. So the more lower you go, you can just keep playing with all of these. You could go multiply if you wanted them to really show, but be careful that you will have to lighten it up somehow. Now the base colors. You just go straight in with your colors. Same thing. I'm just going to speed up the process so you don't have to watch it again. I'm going to find the color that I want her to have, and I'm going to do separate layer for the face, the hair, the bow, and the clothes. Okay, so I've done the skin color, but it's a bit too dark. So I'm gonna lighten it up, and then that should be fine enough. Now, the thing with your base colors is that you need to already have an idea what colors you want. So you can follow a color palette, but if you're not very confident with making color palettes, then the grayscale might be better so that you already have your shadows and your highlights already placed, and then you just add the colors and experiment with the colors that way. So I'm gonna give her brown hair. I will come to the skin and I will alpha lock. Okay? And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pick our color, go to the color wheel, but then we're going to bring the darkness down a tad, and also we're going to make it slightly more saturated. We're going to get our soft brush, or if you want to do it with it doesn't have to be a soft brush, you can also do it with like sharper ones if that's the vibe you're going for. You could and then blend it later, so let's try this technique on here so you can see different ones. So you can bring the blending tool and blend that way. If you want more control, then you can bring your clipping mask in, just so you have a little bit more safety net if things go wrong, which in my experience, it is often. So we're gonna add the blush where we want it to be, and then we're gonna blend, 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 blend. Now, another thing you could do, if you so wanted, is not do any of that. And instead of bringing in a blending, you can bring a selection in. Draw where you want the thing to be. You're gonna press color fill and then feather. And then as you feather it out, you can see the selection. Now I find if your style is more anime, this is the most smoothest way you can do it. And you can also do that for your shadows as well. For example, we can go back to our skin, bring it down, and we can bring our selection and we can feather. So that is another way you can do it. You get a very soft look. Or if you don't want to feather, you can just make it sharp. So you press feather, but then you don't bring it down. You just go back down to 0. This I find is also a very anime kind of shadowing, and then you can come and buff out the edges. So depending on your style, you have a lot of different ways to render, but what I would do is just carry on in the base colors. I would just keep carrying on. You can still alpha lock it, or you can make a new layer. So for lips and eyes, I tend to make a new layer where I bring in the color. And then I alpha lock the color so that I can get all the shadows I need. I would do this for the lips and the eyes. I would then alpha lock it and then do the same, find my color, bring it lighter, and then start blending. You could make your selection again and feather. That way you would get very, very even kind of rendering. So for the hair, it would be a very similar thing. I would clip and mask it. Nope, I would alpha lock it. Find my color, make it darker, make it a little bit more bouncy, and then I like to use this tool. So you can find most hair have like this wiggly line, and you can like feather it out. You can do the same for the other side. I would also start bringing in my shadows manually by hand. I always find that the hair should take the longest. Because if you want to do hair justice, you need to take time to do hair justice. So I would just keep adding shadows this way. I would do 3 levels of shadow. We would have the mid, the darker. So this is my darker. We would have a mid from our color, a darker, and then for the highlights, we would find our main one, bring it up a little bit, bring it further this way, and you would do very, very similar ways. There you go. I do always find that the color gives you, not that it gives you more dimension, it's just that you can see what colors are actually happening. Whereas with a grayscale, once you have the shadows correct, then the rest, you'll just be adding colors to make it work. But yes, these are the 2 different options. I do hope that made sense. If it hasn't, please comment below. Let me know if there's any more questions you'd like. Oh, just because I forgot, I'm also on Twitch. I stream every Wednesday and Saturday. I do games, and we also do some art and some live 2D. So if you do want to join, please follow the link below, and I will see you all soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye!